Good morning and welcome home to Monte Vista Unitarian Universalist congregation. I am Carissa Moore. I am the treasurer of the Board of Trustees, and this morning I am responsible for the weekly announcements. Today, after service, the RE Council is meeting at noon, if any of you are interested. Tuesday, the 4th, is Independence Day. If you're into it, please enjoy the loud noises and pretty lights. If you're one of those people that likes to use the day as an excuse to let your inner pyromaniac run free, please be safe. If you're not a fan of the fireworks, please feel free to join us on Taco Tuesday on Zoom at 7 p.m. On Wednesday the 5th, the worship committee meeting is at 7 p.m. Choir rehearsal is on Thursdays at 7 p.m. On Saturdays at 9 a.m., we have yoga on the back patio. Next Sunday, July 9th, after service, there will be a Balikbayan bag packing party for donations to the Kalapayan congregation in the Philippines. Apparently everybody's leaving on the 16th for that, so we need to pack the bags the week before. Please bring contributions of new or gently used clothing, especially t-shirts, shoes, day packs, umbrellas, ponchos, jackets, school supplies, art supplies, toys, books, sporting goods, canned protein, and old cell phones. If you need any more information, contact Julie Steinbach. On Sunday, July 16th, is Choir Sunday. They will be serenading you with familiar favorites, novel new selections, and even introducing you to special choir rehearsal techniques. You'll also have the unique opportunity to sponsor a song or two and add to our MVUUC General Fund. So that they will have different levels of donations, and all contributions will be deposited in MVUUC's General Fund. Just note General Fund on the memo line of the checks or on the online donations. So come along, sponsor a song, and always keep music in your heart. Let's see, the Hospitality Committee could use some more volunteers to help out on Sunday mornings. Contact Terry or Shirley to volunteer. And the Membership Committee would like you to fill out an emergency contact form if you have not already done so. And with that, I will turn it over.
Like a pancake. Good morning, everyone. It is so good for us to all be here together in our spiritual home. To open our service this morning, for our ingathering, we will sound the bowl 3 times. We'll ring it once for those who have come before. The Tongva and other native peoples who were the original stewards of this land and called it home long, long ago. We also honor our ancestors and the founders of this congregation who imagined and formed it 70 years ago. We ring it once for those of us here and now, and we have several visitors today, so we welcome our visitors with this sound. For our members, friends, visitors, our staff, our extended UU family, all who hold, care, and grow this beloved community that we know as our own. And once for those who will come, for all who will find belonging with us and call Monte Vista Unitarian Universalist congregation their spiritual home in the days ahead. I invite you to stand as you're comfortable and as your body allows, and we're going to sing our opening song. It's from our teal hymnal, Singing the Journey. It's number 1058, Be Ours a Religion. We'll sing it through 2 times. but Letha. We have our very own member, the Daughters of the American Revolution, in Letha Comstock. And I've invited her to light the chalice today in honor of our holiday this week. And with that, we can be reminded to silence all of our devices. Thank you for that reminder. Our chalice lighting words today come from Reverend Kathleen McTeague, who says, "Into this home we bring our hunger for awakening, our compassionate hearts and a will toward justice. Into this home we bring the courage to walk on in the midst of hard losses. Into this home we bring our joy and gratitude for the ordinary blessings. By our gathering here today, we bless this place that we name as home, and in its shelter, we know ourselves blessed." I invite you to speak along with me our covenant of our congregation. It's morphing and changing, and it's had many versions, but for today, this is our congregational covenant. When we finish reading it, we'll sing together Spirit of Life. So I invite you to stand as you're comfortable at either point. We affirm that love is the greatest purpose of this congregation. The search for truth is our constant star, and service is our prayer. We pledge our hearts, minds, and hands to challenge injustice with courage, to find hope in times of fear, and to live out our Unitarian Universalist values every day as beloved community. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all that is sacred in life. Thank you. It is time for our wisdom tale. I'd like to invite Robert Tidwell up, our Director of Lifespan Religious Exploration, who will give us a story written by John Daniel. It's titled Dependence Day.
Good morning, everybody. It would be a much quieter holiday. No fireworks or loud parades, no speeches, no salutes to any flag. A day of staying home instead of crowding away. If it were a day we would refuse to celebrate, anything gained in war, and instead we celebrate what everyone is given by democracy. How the sun's warmth is democratic, touching everyone. And the rain is democratic too. How the strongest branches give of themselves as they resist the wind and resist and give of themselves. How birds could all have the freedom of the planet's weight to wing against. How earth itself came to be when a whirling cloud of dust pledged allegiance as a world circled dependently around a star. And the star blossomed into fire from the ash of other stars, and all at once, at the dark zero of our time, a blaze of revolutionary light exploded out of nowhere. And out of that nothing, the dependence of all things, just as brilliance of the light needs nothing. And now, if Riley and Donovan can come up and get our children's cellos, you guys can sing us out to our classes.
Have a great time. In the days we now know as BC, before COVID, when all was normal, whatever normal might have been then, we would put aside one Sunday offering each month to split our undesignated gifts 50-50 with a pre-selected nonprofit that shared our UU values and was doing good work in the world. We only captured the offerings of those who were present in the service that day, one day a month. But as our new fiscal year opens today, our Board of Trustees has supported the Justice Committee's passion to revisit that tradition and energize our engagement with those making a difference in our world. Our free will offerings taken up each Sunday or mailed into the office will be shared with a different pre-chosen organization every month for all of the weeks of the month. So for July, we'll share the plate with the Citizens Climate Lobby. And in just a moment, Meg Mathias will tell us a bit about them. So whatever your gift, and please, only as you're able, it is meaningful and significant to bring a contribution to place in the basket as a ritual and a reminder of that form of love that we call generosity. Doing so is a reminder that after meeting our obligations to ourselves and our households and our congregation, we do well to keep stretching and exercising that muscle that is our capacity to give. Our attending to the good care of our congregation and to the world is a responsibility that we share. And while good stewardship is our second nature, and generosity is always our first response, our care for one another is utmost in these most unusual days. Meg? So I invite you to participate in this ritual of our free church by supporting the voluntary generosity of all who join with us. There are a few directions regarding the Share the Plate that I'll be talking about after we hear from Meg.
Good morning. You can't open a newspaper or turn on the TV without being bombarded by these messages. Record-breaking heat is blanketing the South. Temperatures remain 20 degrees above normal with no relief at night. Smoke from ongoing Canadian wildfires has spread to the Midwest and is moving east, prompting air quality alerts in 17 states. The past 8 years are the hottest ones on record, and 2023 is shaping up to exceed all of them. And California certainly has felt the effects of hot, dry conditions on fueling our wildfires. And we've seen the increased number and intensity of hurricanes in other parts of our country as our planet heats up. And this weekend, we're beginning to experience just a taste of what heat waves in our climate are like. All that news is enough to give one a hefty dose of what psychologists are now calling eco-anxiety. How do you deal with eco-anxiety? Well, probably several ways, but one of the best ways to counter anxiety is with hope. And one of the best ways to foster hope is with action. Both personal action and joining others with others in a community effort. Which brings me to Citizens Climate Lobby, or CCL. This is the organization that our Justice Coordinating Committee has selected to receive the July month's Share the Plate offering. CCL is a grassroots organization. It was founded in 2007, currently has over 450 chapters and something like 800,000 members throughout the US and Canada and several other countries. Our local chapter, the Inland Valley CCL, was founded right here in this room in 2014, actually with Anne Schranz, who was minister at the time, as our leader then. The name Citizens Climate Lobby tells you all you need to know. We are a group of citizens. We are trained to become lobbyists to push for federal action dealing with climate change. We get to know our members of Congress and their staffs at the local level, and we also have a yearly conference in Washington, D.C., where CCL teams walk the halls of Congress and meet with our representatives there. Now, if you've been familiar with CCL in the past, you know that we've been laser focused on one primary message: carbon fee and dividend, a system in which a fee would be collected by the government on all polluting fossil fuels based on the amount of CO2 they emit. This would drive up the cost of petroleum products and shift usage away from fossil fuels toward cheaper forms of green energy, which emit no CO2. And knowing that energy companies would pass the cost of those fees on to consumers and drive up household costs, the government would then take the fees they've collected and distribute them back to consumers in the form of rebates or dividends, carbon fee and dividend. But in the light of the incentives and features of the last year's Inflation Reduction Act, CCL has now broadened its focus to push for 4 different main areas of legislation. We're still focused on legislation at the federal level. Carbon fee and dividend remains one. The second is to move households and businesses toward total electrification. The third is legislation to speed up the permitting process for electrical transmission lines from the sources of clean energy to the sites of usage. And the fourth is supporting healthy forests as absorbers of CO2, among other things. Now, CCL has 2 main arms: the lobbying one, which I've described, and an educational focus. We have an excellent website which offers many training programs, blogs, podcasts, discussion groups, resources, materials, and so forth. This is relevant as you consider donating to support it. CCL, as the lobbying arm, is not tax deductible. If you contribute cash, of course, that's no problem, but if you write a check and want to use it as a tax donation, or do so, or you give online, you need to make it to MVUUC, but put CCE, Citizens Climate Education, on the memo line in order for it to be tax deductible. And as Reverend Maggie described earlier, the undesignated offering for all 5 Sundays in July will be divided between MVUUC and CCL. So thanks for giving generously to help mitigate climate change, and please join our local meetings if you're interested. It will help lower your eco-anxiety to be part of a supportive community of like-minded activists. Thank you.
Thank you, Meg. I'd like to have the text of that, if you could. Email that to me, and we'll put it in our community connections for folks to read through again. For the Share the Plates, what we'll be doing is gathering all of the funds into our Monte Vista bookkeeping. So the checks would not be written directly to Citizens Climate Lobby. Write them to Monte Vista, Unitarian Universalist congregation, and in the memo, put, your designation. If it's just for share the plate, then it would be split in half. Or if you want it 100% to CCL, you can also designate that on the memo. If you have cash that you would like to designate today to your pledge, we do have envelopes at the greeter station that you're welcome to use. Put your cash into an envelope like this and just write on the front, and Jerry has some pens over there that you can use. Put how you want your offering to be used. It is with great gratitude that our offerings will now be both given and received in appreciation for all of our shared hopes and values.
Good morning again, and welcome to the new fiscal year. So let's start with some basic housekeeping. If you have not fulfilled your pledge for the 22-23 fiscal year, please do so. Just makes the math easier for our bookkeeper. If you have not yet submitted a new pledge card, and thank you to the 55 pledge units that have done so. Yes. They are the bright green forms on the back table, or you can submit it online through the website. For those of you that submit your pledge via auto draft or something similar, please take the time to verify that the correct amount is coming out of your account, especially if you changed your pledge for this year. If you submit money via check or PayPal, please confirm on the memo line or the drop-down menu what the money is for. Since the fiscal year just started, Tracy will assume that any unspecified checks or PayPal submissions will go towards your pledge first, which may not be where you intend for it to go, especially since we just started up Share the Plate on a regular basis. On the same note, if you wish to donate money to pay back the very generous soul who fronted the money for Alan's laptop last week, please mark your donation as Alan's gift. And you can put it in the basket, you can put it in the box back by the office door, up to you. Now, on to the part that nobody wants to deal with, our current financial status. Final June numbers won't be out for a few more weeks. That's just how long it takes Tracy to round everything out. We did have a deficit, which we knew we were going to. We also had at least $27,000 in unexpected plumbing repairs. Yeah. Current estimates are that another $500 to $1,600 may be needed on further repairs to the men's room. In terms of other upcoming repairs, roof repairs are currently estimated at about $44,000. Now, this is higher than we expected. There's three main reasons for this. One is, as of January 1st, there's a new state requirement for there to be 2-inch installation board, which we did not know back in November when we got the original estimate. The roof is also attached to 1/2-inch sheetrock, so it's probably going to take a little bit more time to remove the roof without destroying the sheetrock. And we're also going to need a metal flashing installed around the entire pop-up structure over the sanctuary that we did not anticipate. It's also going to cost $4,700 just to remove and reinstall the AC units off the roof. Also on the repair list, the Montclair Fire Department has reinstated annual inspections after 10 years. So there are a few upgrades we need to make, namely to our fire alarm system and the back gate. Some of you may have noticed we have new exit signs, and I'd like to thank George very, very much for purchasing those and getting them installed this week. Thank you. Thank you. So now that we've got the bad news out of the way, the Finance Committee did have the foresight to add $25,000 worth of fundraising to our budget. We need ideas. If you have any ideas for fundraisers, especially if they can draw from the surrounding community, so it's not all just coming out of our pockets, if you would like to take the lead on organizing a fundraiser, or if you would be interested in being part of a fundraising committee type group, please contact the board, because we could use the help. Thank you.
We'll be doing a time with the treasurer on the Sunday morning that follows the board meeting every month, just so to keep everybody up to date with what's going on with the money side of things. Thank you, Carissa. Thank you. As we share our joys and our sorrows together, it is time to enter into our time in the service where we read and share ideas about the things in the world and the things among the congregation and our relationships with each other that need our attention and our prayer. We share our delights and our disappointments. We have these little yellow sheets for those who are visiting who might want to write something that they want announced on. I see that Letha, you signed this one. It's super, oh, Letha stepped out for the children. It's real important that what is written on these is written in the first person and that it's signed, okay? So we don't make announcements about other people, and we have to have a signature on here for who submitted it. But this one comes from Letha. She says, I'm scheduled for hip replacement surgery. Yes, yes. It's coming up on July 13th. Here, that's the joy. And here's the sorrow. Kaiser has forbidden any pain meds until after the surgery. So yes, Letha needs a lot of our support and prayer and patience so that she can make it through to the afternoon of July 13th. Yeah. Another item that has been in our news, and a few of us have shared this tremendous sorrow in our community, is that Amy's farm is having to close. They have been operating on leased land for 35 years. They have loved that land and done so much with it and raised so many animals and had so many young people come there and learn about organic farming, but they've lost their lease. So we'll just be holding them in our thoughts and prayers. They do have a spot online where you can donate. And they're also asking for people to come and help them to shut things down and close up. So we may be getting in touch with folks that might want to participate in doing some of that work to help them. Also, a great joy is that not only is it July 2nd, which means it's the second full day that David Adams is our new president. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We also have our new treasurer, Terry McGuire. Secretary, sorry. See, I gave your job away, Carissa. Carissa remains our treasurer. Terry is our secretary. And Debbie, you want to stand up so folks can, maybe you two should stand up. Come on, stand up with her. Yeah, we do tell people to contact the board, so it's important that they know who the board is. So we're just so grateful for your service to the congregation. And also, Alan, our gratitude continues to overflow and ripple. Yeah, thank you. You will always have the title of our wizard, even if you're not president. So I have a prayer for today that will be shared from, they're the words of an Indigenous elder that I often quote, Stephen Charleston, I just find that I'm so curious and so encouraged when there seems to be themes woven through our worship that I wasn't planning on, but I welcome this. It's a prayer, it's called Broom of Hope. So more of the hope. I have a little broom called Hope. I use it to sweep out the corners of my life where the dust of my past has settled in the shadows of my heart. They cling like cobwebs. It does a good job. I sweep fear and worry out the door, leaving only sunshine where the dark spaces once pretended to rule. I have a little broom called Hope. Please feel free to borrow it whenever you'd like. And we'll now enjoy a time of shared silence together. And it will be ended when Lily begins to play our gentle song, which is filled with loving kindness, which we will sing through 3 times. The first time we use the pronoun I, then you, and the third verse is we. Thank you. Beautiful, thank you. Our reading today comes from a little publication that we have. It's called Lifting Our Voices. Some call it the Pink Hymnal, but it's made up of readings. It's titled, What Are We to Make of These Times? And it's written by Reverend Clyde Grubbs. The road of history is long now, full of both hope and disappointment. In times past, there have been wars and rumors of wars, violence and exploitation, hunger and homelessness and destruction of this earth. But we have become a global village with a growing realization of how fragile this earth is and how interconnected we are to each other and to all beings. We cannot continue to live the old way. We must make a change, see a new way, a way toward peace with justice and a healthy planet. We carry a vision of the good and we yearn for a new way. But where are we to find the courage to begin this work? We know that a different tomorrow is possible, but how can we build it? We think of the prophets, men and women, who voiced unpopular opinions and who made personal sacrifices and sometimes lost their lives for the sake of justice. We think of Isaiah, who called out long ago to let those held in captivity go free and to give solace to the poor and the homeless. Let us be inspired by all who work to overcome misery, poverty, and exploitation. We think of Harriet Tubman, who called out to people of goodwill to lift a dehumanized people from the bondage of slavery to the promise of freedom, even when it meant challenging unjust laws. Let us be inspired by those who are outlaws for freedom. We think of Gandhi, whose belief in soul force, the witness to love's truth, helped to overthrow the oppression of an empire and gave witness to the way of nonviolent action. Let us be inspired to become witnesses for peace. We think of Chief Seattle, who reminded us that we belong to the earth, not the earth to us. Let us be inspired by all who work for the healing of creation of Mother Earth and all of her creatures. For we are grateful for the prophets who inspire us. They may be well known or known only to a few, ancestors offering personal inspiration, courage, and hope. But may we engage them and join in a great cloud of witnesses to bring a new way of freedom, the way of justice, lived according to the way of peace for all of Earth's beloved community. So may it be. Amen. It was early on the morning of June 19th, during our very intentional, slow start to the week, and George and I were reading the news together. It's a bit of a spiritual practice that I gift myself with to begin a day off, sitting with George and my teapot, taking tiny little bites of the world and all that is churning. I had promised myself that I'd make time to read up on the Juneteenth holiday and the ways that it's being celebrated now that it's a federal holiday during these unprecedented days. So it took just a bit of digging to find out that Juneteenth had become a federal holiday in 2021 when President Biden signed the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act into law. I didn't know what the name of the act was before that, and I paused a minute to feel my way through the thought that it might be a bit of a stretch to name the act that recognizes this new federal holiday with a title that claims independence, when the truth of the matter is that Juneteenth marks the day in 1866 when the slaves of Galveston, Texas learned that they had supposedly been freed by President Lincoln 2.5 years earlier. 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was issued on January 1st, 1863, the freedom that was promised by President Lincoln's proclamation was held back from some who had prayed for it and longed for it and died without ever seeing it. It was withheld by many factors: resistance, racism, greed, need, and the always rancid perception of the supremacy of one people over another. It was withheld in part because of a lack of technology in 1863, when word of mouth was the way that news traveled on horseback. Quite a bit different than today, when we watch history unfold anywhere on earth in real time. But the two holidays of Juneteenth and Independence Day both reflect important aspects of our national heritage in many ways. Today we can see that despite sharing the word Independence Day in their proclamations, one celebrates the birth of freedom and one marks freedom withheld, freedom that's still being sought. Freedom and independence is yet to be born into its fullness in the United States of America. We are increasing our awareness that our freedom is immature and unfair. It is infested with layers of dominance and unacknowledged supremacy, not in new ways, but in ways that are being unveiled after 247 years. It is a freedom that is celebrated and still withheld to too many, in too many ways, hoarded as if it is zero-sum. So we pause this day in between the two federal holidays and we wonder, what might true freedom look like? And is it available in this life? Is it something we're entitled to or fortunate to inherit? Do we have to earn it? And what can we, as people of compassion, do to bring it about? How can we live out and offer others a freedom that frees? In his 1946 book, Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl gives us a vivid description of his experience as a captive within a Nazi concentration camp, where he was starved, beaten, overworked, and constantly threatened with death. When freed following the war, Frankl was driven by his curiosity about the capacity that he and others in the camp had found within themselves that allowed them to maintain and be motivated by their strong will to live. The free and responsible search for truth and meaning that we hold as our fourth principle was an urgent, bubbling force within them. Viktor Frankl built an entire philosophy from the three aspects of meaning that he found that were freeing for his soul, despite what he was experiencing, despite the death he walked within, as his very being was held captive and abused and oppressed. The first is the power of our compelling drive to achieve something. Secondly, he credits the motivation that springs from love. And third, it's the dignity of the human spirit when it is pinned to the ground by suffering. Somehow, almost as if he was imbued with a superpower, the selfless lessons that Viktor Frankl gleaned from his grief during his days in the Nazi camps gave him a passion for his own deep exploration of experience that is gifted to us in his book, Man's Search for Meaning. He gives us his first-person experience of inner freedom, found with the deepest, most deplorable settings that mankind has ever endured. And his revelations of the transcendent beauty that he found in nature and art through the power of the Spirit are beyond measure, and they serve as a means to help others endure unspeakable oppression. Frankl's book explores the very essence of a freedom that frees, a freedom that cannot be seen, weighed, or measured, a freedom that is only increased when experienced and shared, and yet it doesn't solve the problems or make us happy, but it's a freedom that no other force can take from you. It is a freedom of the soul that is seated within us as an unopened invitation. It's a freedom that doesn't depend on the intervention of any other person in order to make it come alive. It's a freedom that we might learn the most about by releasing all that we know about what freedom is and where it's sourced, where ours has been hiding all this time. To engage the Buddhist tradition of the beginner's mind and be freed from the limited, entitled version of freedom that we were told was our inalienable right by our colonist ancestors at the expense of untold lives. Bless their hearts. But yet we stand on their shoulders, and we are grateful for this journey, celebrating our nation's history, knowing that we wouldn't be here if they hadn't been there. But wait a minute, where could we be if they had been even a wee bit less predatory? Well, we can choose differently. And as we begin our new fiscal year and we welcome our new Board of Trustees and we kattywample onward, purposefully forward toward our yet unclear destination, we do so with a hope to find the freedom that frees for us and for the honor that we hold for our ancestors and for those who we must prepare for, those that we hope will come. Whenever we reach a threshold, and we are crossing several of them now, it is our duty to this community, our community, to stop and assess our path ahead and step forward with safe, firm, consensual footing. We are so very aware that there are many hard things coming our way right now, most of which have to do with campus upgrades and plumbing for some reason. And we also know that it won't always be this hard, and that these confounding times will fade. And we pray that they are replaced by relief and freedom. We also know that we cannot expect new people to come along who will choose to gather here for the same reasons that have, for so many years, become our purpose here. For some of us, decades. There are new people coming who do need community to create new things for them. And one of the new things people are beginning to miss and long to create, according to New York Times opinion writer Jessica Gross, is community. Community that serves in ways that social clubs and soccer teams cannot. Every sociologist she interviewed in the article that I referenced responded in the same way to her question of, can secular activities outside of houses of worship give the same level of wraparound support that churches, temples, mosques are able to offer? And clearly, across the board, the answer was no. One sociologist that Gross interviewed is a neighbor of ours, and maybe Meg knows him. Pitzer College professor of sociology, Phil Zuckerman, who she quoted in her article as saying, I can go play soccer on a Sunday morning and hang out with people from different races and different class backgrounds. We can bond, but I'm not going to do that with my grandparents or my grandchildren. A soccer team can provide spiritual solace in the face of death. It doesn't offer supportive charitable calls or a sense of belonging and a connection to heritage that goes back generations. You can get bits and pieces of these qualities, but there's no one-stop shop, at least not right now. There is no one-stop shop like MVUUC. Gross went on to report that every demographic group in the United States is becoming less religious. The group most overrepresented among people with no religion are those without high school diplomas, who are single, who don't have children, and earn less than $50,000 a year. So let us ask, can it be our choice, and yes, our challenge, to envision ways that we might extend our community to welcome these who, like many of us, choose to become less religious, in favor of building a place for wraparound support and a freedom that frees? I say yes. Yes, we can. We stand in a unique place as a congregation that is not afraid of people with passion to be less religious and more compassionate about climate change. We understand the insistence to be less dogmatic and more justice-centered toward freedom of choice. We also want to be less anchored in the muck of things that hold us back and more attached to systems that release oppression and set us all free. Let's do that, whatever it takes. Let's use this threshold moment to do all that we can, to become who we need to be, to swing open our doors, and to welcome those who are in search of freedom. Not freedom that comes at the expense of indigenous communities, and not the kind of freedom that is withheld and kept secret from some cultures, but real freedom. Freedom that frees. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. George, could I invite you to come and extinguish the chalice? Letha is still with the children. And let's say together our benediction and our extinguishing words. I'm not sure Jaryus has these. I change them every week, so he's always got to make a new slide. But let's say together, we leave this gathered community, but not our connection or our sense of belonging. Our hearts carry outgoing concern for each other, for our faith, and for the world. So until we are together again, friends, be strong, be loved, be true, be well, and be kind. So let's continue our conversation on the patio with some refreshments after we enjoy the postlude that Lily's prepared.